The last thing we definitely have to talk about is a great point by Ann in the chat. The United States women's volleyball team announced their Olympic roster today.
Do we want to do this now, or do we want to do this at a separate time?
I want to do it now, and then I'll make a video about it later.
Okay.
The United States women's volleyball team announced their Olympic roster today. I made my wild guesses on our show here 2 nights ago,
and you were kind of wrong.
I was
mostly right.
I was mostly right. I got a couple wrong. That's okay. The one thing I was wrong about was the backup setter. It is Lauren Carlini, and Jordan Poulter.
Can we talk about Lauren? Because
we can. Let me just read it down first, and then we can go into it. So the 2 setters are Jordan Poulter and Lauren Carlini.
Yep.
The 2 opposites are Jordan Thompson and Annie Drews.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 middle blockers are Dana Retke, Chaka Bogu, and Haley Washington.
Mm-hmm.
The 1 libero is Justine Wong-Arantes, of course. And the 4 outside hitters are Kelsey Robinson-Cook, Jordan Larson, Catherine Plummer, and Avery Skinner.
All right.
So I was right about those 4. I wasn't sure about second opposite, if Annie was healthy or if they were going to bring Khalil Lanier, who's kind of a hybrid. And then I wasn't sure about second setter.
Do you want to discuss this now, or are you just going to discuss it later on?
Let's do it now.
All right.
Let's do it now.
Okay. Are you surprised? I think it's a the Carlini choice is an interesting one. You thought, like, picking Annie Drew, someone who's been there before with that team, to me makes sense. But Carlini has just seemed to not mesh with this team a few times. And they've gone away from her more than a few times. So it just seems like an odd decision to me.
The reason why I didn't expect her to make the team is not only was she not included in the Arlington roster, but Micah Hancock was the captain on that team.
Yeah.
I brought that up the other night, and you don't just give away the bar randomly, especially if you're KARCH KIRALY. That's a very out of character for him to not be really calculated about a choice like that. So I know that program has buy-in at all levels, because they actually named 5 alternates instead of just 1. They have an alternate now at every position, which I actually really like, because now it's more role clarity as they go forward through the process. But I'm definitely surprised by Carlini, especially because I don't think she plays well off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Carlini is at her best when she's the girl, when she starts and has the ball in her hands all the time. But this is Jordan Poulter's team.
I'm wondering if they were more worried about, because I think that Micah Hancock may be a better volleyball player overall than Carlini, but I don't know if she's necessarily a better setter than Carlini.
I definitely agree with that.
And my wonder is if they were too worried about Poulter's longevity and health, that they were worried that she might break down at a certain point and need Carlini to be the guy or the girl. With a woman.
That actually makes a lot of sense to me.
That to me is...
Because I agree. Micah Hancock is a damn good volleyball player and is clearly a really good locker room piece. She has a vicious serve, which for some reason I haven't seen Team USA use enough. But you're right. Knowing Jordan Poulter, where she is at in her recovery from a major knee injury, maybe that is something that they need, is somebody who is more likely to play full-time setter minutes. Whereas in Tokyo, Hancock only came in. Well, Poulter got hurt in that Olympics. Hancock came in, played great, got Poulter back for the gold medal match. But that was not the plan, and it wasn't even the plan to run a 6-2 at all. The plan was to have Hancock come in and serve and set very rarely. So that actually does make a little bit of sense. The other 2 kind of wild cards are Annie Drews and Kelsey Robinson-Cook, and clearly the program has seen enough from those 2 players and understands the trajectory of their recoveries well enough to name them to the roster, because we haven't seen them at all.
I mean, Annie Drews to me is a little bit more. I think that if there was someone else who could step in as a true opposite in that position, that they would have potentially gone with them.
But we don't have one of those.
But there isn't one. Whereas Kelsey Robinson-Cook to me is a no-brainer.
Oh, 100% agree.
Is an absolute no-brainer. Like, if you are, if you're KARCH and you watch the way that Kelsey Robinson-Cook has played over the past 3 years for the best club team in the world, and consistently done there's no brainer whatsoever.
Yeah. And so
Ozzy in the chat right now is saying Kelsey she's going to Fukuoka working on shoulder issues.
So she's going week 3. That's cool. That's good to hear. And there was a lot of chatter in the Discord today about the other outside hitters. People were saying that Catherine Plummer wasn't a lock. Those people are insane.
You're stupid.
Those people are insane.
You're stupid.
You're insane. You clearly haven't watched any of our stuff. You clearly didn't watch my interview with KARCH, where he spoke so highly of Catherine Plummer and the club season that she had, playing next to Kelsey Robinson, winning more titles than they lost matches in Conegliano. We also heard him say how highly he valued and how much input he took from players' club seasons.
And and I've talked about it before. I have been a Catherine Plummer hater consistently at the end of the season. Critic, not a hater. I'm not out there talking shit about her, but it's been like, hey, she isn't getting the job done in the gut check time. This year she did.
I agree.
This year she did consistently. This year she was dominant. Right? I think Catherine Plummer, like, she's really gone through it. I think a little bit, and I think it's one thing and it's so tough sometimes. I think when you come out of the NCAA and you're so lauded. And you're so recognized and you're understood as like kind of the next big thing, and it's like a little bit like we're seeing in the WNBA right now with the girls who going in and they're like, hey, this ain't no joke. It's the same thing when like we saw it with Dana Rettke as well. She had a bit of an impact when she started with Malonza, and then it took a little bit of time to her to get back to be a starting position. That like it is difficult to be a professional volleyball player at that high level, and there's a lot of things that you need to get used to from the NCAA, as good as it is and as amazing of a product it is when you're going to play with the top teams.
It's a developmental league at the end of the day.
It is still a developmental league, and as great as it is, there's still some stuff, and we're seeing Plummer's process through that, and I think right now you're seeing her come out the other sides of the Mines of Moria. And maybe she's missing one less Gandalf, but she's got a hell of a lot of experience on her side now.
I like that. I like that a lot. And I just like the versatility and the well-roundedness of this 4 outside hitter group. I think Kelsey Robinson and Jordan Larson are similar players at this point in their careers. They both have elite-level ball control skill. Larson is one of the smartest volleyball players of all time.
Bro, she was dropping 20-plus points.
And her offensive game looks real good right about now. And then I really agree with the Avery Skinner pick. People, I like Avery Skinner better than Ali Franti at this point for the role that she's going to play. Skinner is the 4th outside hitter on this list. She will never start a match.
You need a spark plug off the bench.
That's right.
And we saw Skinner be exactly, not necessarily that, but she played some time coming off the bench for, what was that team that I really liked this year? KIRALY.
Yep.
I loved Skinner this year for KIRALY, and her ability to start, her ability to come off the bench and kind of impact at any point. She's fast, she's physical, she's athletic, and she's confident.
And what I saw week 1, when we brought a mixed group over to week 1 in VNL, and Avery Skinner both started and came off the bench. Every time she was inserted into a game, the game kind of changed, and I was like, oh, something's different here. Yeah. Something's going on here. Like there's an energy shift here, and we even saw it in Arlington. Like you and I didn't see it in person because the Canada game, like the 2 starting outside hitters were so good. But then later in the week, we saw Skinner a fair bit when we were watching from afar, and I really liked the pick a lot.
Yeah,
and
I think there's going to be a time in the future, and not a far off future, where we're going to see 2 Skinners on the starting lineup
100%.
for the women's national team.
I agree with that.
For the U.S. women's national team.
I really like this roster a lot, and I like now. I know that I think there was a deadline from the U.S. Olympic Committee, not USA Volleyball, but like above that kind of forced KARCH to name it now, because I think he still would have appreciated more like data of looking at players in a USA jersey in competition. But this is what we have right now. This is the calendar we're working with, and this is the team. Now we can move forward with clarity. KARCH was quoted in the USA V press release and the Volleyball magazine release about obviously it's a bittersweet moment. It's going to be bittersweet for all these coaches and all these teams, because you have a group of players that is so much bigger than 12 that has helped you get to this point, but only 12 can go, and that sucks. But now the sweet part is that you pick this roster with confidence, can move forward with clarity, and the 5 alternates that we named, who, by the way, are Morgan Hens at libero, Micah Hancock at setter, Khalil Lanier as sort of the hybrid wing, Ali Franti at outside, and Anna Stevenson Hall in the middle. Those are the 5 alternates. We don't know who the official 13th Olympian will be. But those players now have their role defined as well, and can continue to do their jobs in the gym and in training and be ready at a moment's notice if something happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I think one of the benefits, too, is that when you go back to 2021, where you had to tell people in the bubble at Rimini,
that was so brutal.
Tough.
That was so brutal.
Right, where those athletes had to have their hopes and dreams dashed. To be honest, like that killed Ben Patch. Right?
Literally ended his career.
We're literally I think we need to have a conversation, like a 30 for 30 piece on what happens if that decision is made in Anaheim as opposed to in Italy, where you have to then now leave the team that you've been living and breathing with for however long and take a 6, 7, 8 hour flight back home across the Atlantic after one of the most disappointing news of your life. So I think it's massive for the U.S. team to have been able to have done this at home, right? And now it's to all those other girls, thank you very much for all of your help, and you can go have the rest of the summer off now. Go enjoy California. Go back home and see stuff. But I think it's a much better position to be in for any team to be able to announce it at home as opposed to on the road in the bubble.
Excellent point. The bubble was especially brutal. Man, the psychological impact on some of those athletes would have been just brutal. So that's the USA Women's Olympic team. There are now of the 24 Olympic teams, only 2 have been named. Both of them are American. But I
think that's something you guys need to take to the American Olympic Committee because hey, you guys are that's a tough situation for those coaches to be in.
Sparrow did it by choice.
True.
And he preferred to do it that way. I think KARCH felt like his hand was forced and he was rushed a little bit. But I like it. We're going forward with clarity. And I think the floodgates are going to open and we're going to start learning about a lot of other 12-player Olympic teams, both the men's and the women's sides, real soon.
Devin,